Welcome back, everybody. My name is Alyssa, and this is Into the Heart Wild. Did you guys like my new opening? Did you like it? I made it last month in December, and I got help from Chaz over at Bookish Chaz on getting some music added to it. And now I've got a cute little opener and everything. So I hope you guys like it. So anyways, today's video I'm going to finally be bringing all of you my top books of 2022. After going over all the reading that I did last year, there was really only 5 books that really were like, yep, those are the ones, those are the big boys that I want to share and that I want to tell everybody else to read if they haven't already, which there's at least 2 on this list that I know a good majority of you have probably already read, or it is already on your guys' radar. So with that said, let us go ahead and jump into this. And real quick, if you guys happen to hear saws and everything outside, one of my neighbors is cutting down their tree because we've had some nasty winds here in California. So they are cutting down one of their trees. So do apologize if at any point all of a sudden you hear like motorized saws or something. I have 5 top books, and figuring out how exactly to rank these was very, very difficult. But you know what? We're gonna do this. Just know that there's no one book that I love more than the other. I actually love all of these very, very much for so many different reasons, and so being in the top 5 is like a great thing. So with that said, we're gonna start with number 5, obviously. And this is going to be the one book on the list that is going to be absolutely, completely different from all of my other picks because it is not in my usual genre. And if there's a certain best friend watching this, just know I still really, really love this book and this series. It's just he's competing with a lot of other good books in my normal genre. And that is going to Monroe by Kresley Cole. This is, I think, either book 18 or book 19 in the Immortals After Dark romance paranormal series that my best friend introduced me to. There are some books in the series I absolutely hate, and there are some that I absolutely love, and then there's others where I'm like, these are good. Monroe is a 5-star. I only waited 2 years for this particular book to come out. She waited much longer, much longer than I did. And the wait was worth it. Because what Kresley gave us in this, he's one of my favorite men she has written, because she does have some where I'm kind of like, we're gonna not talk about you, sir. But Monroe is one of the good ones. And it doesn't help either that he is of the Lycas, so that makes him like essentially werewolf. Those are my favorites, you know, because like the series has vampires, werewolves, demons, witches, Valkyries. I wish I was a Valkyrie, but he's a Lyca, and there's time travel in this. They find a cave. He finds her a nice cave. You know, but Kearney was also a great female MC. I really liked her. She wasn't just like a simple pushover, which is one of the things that I actually really love about Kresley's writing is her women are strong, but they're not like over the point to where you're like, wow, they're annoying because they're so strong and so good at what they do. but they're just really well written women. And her men, they go back and forth. Sometimes they're really good, sometimes they're not. Monroe was definitely one of the better ones. He is the hotter of Hotter and Hot. Those are twin. He has a twin brother, and that's one of their nicknames in the series, Hotter and Hot. Monroe is hotter. I can tell you that much. But this was everything we wanted. We read it the day it came out. All the hype that she got for it when it came back, when her series came back and she finally released this, worth every second of it. And she opened it up for more, obviously, because she is not done with this world. She is not done with this series. I want to say she set up the possibility of 2 different books with this one. Yeah, I want to say she hinted at 2 more books at this one, but there's just so many other stories that we know of altogether. And her world building is fantastic. The way she foreshadows, the way she calls back to earlier books and earlier settings, the way her books overlap each other, and how she deep dives into different aspects of what's going on, because there are multiple times in his book where it called back to earlier settings with some of the other characters. It calls back to events with his brother, his family in general. This one also, I have to say, I believe this is the only Kresley book that has made me cry because of his backstory. And I remember being in tears, and I remember discussing with my bestie, and she was like, did this book make me cry? And I was like, it made you cry. So if you're into reading romance books, I do recommend Kresley Cole, not just for, because I don't read romance books for the smut. There are some who do. I actually read it for the story involved, because I want to see the craft behind it. And Kresley's world building, her craft in general, is fantastic. If this woman was to ever decide to just write a fantasy series, y'all wouldn't know what to do with yourselves. Okay? Because the way she goes in, ridiculous. So definitely, if you're on the lookout, if you happen to read romance, this is a series I recommend. And definitely Monroe. The nice thing is that they all can be read standalone, but the way she connects them all, you want to read it all because you want to see the connections. You want to see how she builds this world. But definitely Monroe is one of her better men, if you're not so into the problematic aspects that some of her other books can have. But he's a gem, and he is one of my top 2 favorite men that she has written. Coming in at number 4 is a self-published book, which I own the compendium of the first 3 books, so I will be showing you guys that. But the title of the 3rd book that I read is called Reiners. Yeah, the 3rd book in the series is called Reiners Curse by Evan Oliver. This is, like I said, the compendium, Rise of the Dragon Slayers, The Legends of Carrick, Volume 1. This has books 1 through 3, plus a short story involving Revik and Thora. I love Revik so much. But Reiners Curse, 3rd book in the series, that's the one we're going to be talking about. I'm going to try not to include too many spoilers, but Reiners Curse was another amazing installment to the series. It's a slower one. The first 2 books are very high action, very fast paced, a lot of movement going through them, and you get through them really quickly. The 3rd book, it slows down. It slows down a little bit. And that's fine, because it focuses more on a lot of the political aspects. A certain character becomes Jarl, and instead of everything just magically working out for this character, there is a struggle. You see the effort and the work that they must go through to be a Jarl and be a good Jarl and fix all the problems that the old Jarl created. And I really like that aspect. There is also, the story starts to go back to the original, I don't want to say original plot, but one of the original main ideas that Carrick himself, the main character of these stories, has in his first book, which is getting off of the Black Isles. Because the way the story works, they're all kind of stuck on this island because of a long-standing curse one of the great legends of their land had created. It's very hard to try and talk around this without spoiling it. But one of the cool things that Oliver does is you learn about this legendary character, this myth, this legend that they have, and you start to see one of the characters very slowly start to mimic all the things that this man went through. And that includes like losing limbs. There's loss of limbs in this, and I can tell you this, when it happened, I was kind of like, no, go, God, dude. And it's like one of those things that like you felt coming, like you were just kind of like, it's very interesting how he is taking his main character and he is starting to make him mirror the legend of the world that he knows of and that he and his people like talk about and everything. And it's so interesting. There is a lot of Norse inspiration, but on top of it being Norse inspired, Oliver throws in his own ideas as well to make it his on top of that. So I like how he combines them together. And this one, it also has a marriage happens, one that I was rooting for since like book 1. And just a lot of the first half, like I said, the first half of the story it's a little bit slower. It deals with the politics of the world. The second half, it goes back into and you start getting the action. And if there is one thing Oliver is amazing at, is the action scenes. So if you're interested in Norse inspired stories and with like their own twist thrown on top of it, legends, mythologies and whatnot, and a character starting to mirror said aspects of a legend and essentially making it feel like this legend is real and it actually happened because these events are starting to happen to the main character. And you like a really good strong female character, because Yilmi is if you love a good strong female character who knows how to come in and stand her ground, she's the one you want. She is amazing. And I struggle with a lot of female characters that are written in a strong manner, and she is one of my favorites. I absolutely love her. Carrick, on the other hand, is a very soft character, and I love him with all of my heart. He wants nothing better than to make the lives of his people better. He is not quick to violence. He would rather talk things through and figure things out in a more gentle way. He is loving and caring. He's always looking out for those around him, and it's just, I feel in a world of books where a lot of the male protagonists are very strong and straightforward, or they're very rash and mean, I feel like Carrick stands out for his softness, and that's something that I genuinely just love about him. And then there's Revik, the big strong boy on the side who's got like an attitude, and I'm like, yeah, that's my man. He's a side character and I love him, and if anything happens to him, I will riot. I will riot. So definitely do check out this series. 3 books are out. Like I said, you can get this big, beautiful compendium. The author reached out to me and sent me this because I have been reviewing his books since the first one through Book Sirens. And so he so graciously reached out and was like, thank you for like reading my books and loving them, and I would like to send you the compendium. And I was like, yes, please. So yeah, lots of great characters. There's also dragons in this. There's a dragon in it, so there is like magical elements. It is definitely something worth looking into. It is a self-published series that I would really love more people to pick up because it is just absolutely fantastic. Coming in at number 3, At the Threshold of the Universe by T.A. Bruno, the final book in the Song of Kamaria trilogy. This was action-packed. It was full of so many emotions: fear, anger, happiness, love, hope. Just the ongoing storyline involving hope and never giving up it's so apparent throughout the entire book. And the ordeals that the Costas family goes through, you're just like sitting there like on the edge of your seat, just wondering and worrying about how it's all going to unfold in the end. And the ending has like a very, it's one of those like happy bittersweet kind of endings, because on one hand, you're like, oh, and on the other, you're like, oh. And obviously I'm not going to tell you guys, but I mean, that's how it made me feel. Like, I was just kind of like, oh, because you end up thinking about the long-term effects of how this ends. The Ochnai, of course, were present. As if you have seen any of my reviews in regards to this series, you will know that I absolutely love them, and a good portion of their part in this story was heart-crushing for me. just because I want to be friends with all the Ochnai. If I was stranded on a planet with giant talking birds, I would do everything in my power to be their best friends. Okay? Simple as that. The story picks up exactly where On the Winds of Quasars ends, because I have learned I have been pronouncing that wrong. I'm looking at you, Bruno, for not telling me. But it's just, it picks up right where it ends. So when you finish On the Winds of Quasars, you pick this one up immediately, and it's like you never stopped reading, because it just goes right back in. A lot of answers in this one, since it is the final book. A lot of your answers about the Undrul are finally answered. The story does heavily revolve around Cade. It revolves around the family in general, but it does very heavily revolve around Cade and the things that Cade is horrifically going through. And Bruno kind of doesn't like hold back on that, but that's where the elements of like the love and the anger and the hurt and the worry and the hope come from. Because like I said, hope plays a very big part of this book. I do have to say, one of the big aspects that I did like about this was how Bruno didn't shy around the effects of war. There was a lot of casualties in this. There was a lot of like I said, there was a lot of casualties, but there was also just a lot of people who were permanently injured or maimed or anything like that. He doesn't shy around the fact that like war just brings out the worst, and that it can leave things in a worse state, and that falls into like the rifts that happen between two different groups that crushed my heart. It was truly a great and epic ending to a beautiful series, and I look forward to anything else that Bruno will write. And if he ever one day wants to write a story that is strictly following the Ochnai, I'll be first in line. You can have all my money, all of it. Just saying. If that ever happened. Coming in at number 2, The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne. This is book 2 in the Bloodsworn saga, and it picks up where the first one ends. One of the things that I truly loved about this one was the focus and attention that Gwen put on mothers. All too often in fantasy books, mothers get shunned, they get pushed to the side, they get forgotten, they get killed. And to have an author like Gwen put so much focus and effort into showing how relentless a mother can be was and is truly amazing. I'm just going to take a moment to tell you guys I'm really struggling to talk about this book. As a mother myself, it was amazing to see the work and the effort and the craft that he put into the attention of mothers being just as worthy of being in a fantasy. And the thing is like, it's not just one mother, because as we all know, if you've read the first book, there's Orca, and I believe in the synopsis for that one, it tells you that like she is trying to get her baby boy back because somebody kidnapped him. But there is another mother in this one that it also highlights and bring focus to, and it just shows the determination that a mother will have to get her child back. And it's one of those things where, like, there's constantly, you always hear people say, like, mothers are like bears. There's the whole mama bear joke, like, they'll do anything for their children. And so it was always one of those things where it always kind of, like, struck me as strange that in a lot of fantasy books, mothers were killed off. They were forgotten. They kind of acted as if, like, they just didn't really care, like, what was going on with their kids. And so this was really nice because it finally gives voice to moms, There is especially a scene in the book where you see from the child's perspective how much faith and trust they have in their mom. And, they're being told by another character, like, oh, like, you'll be safe with us. And the child responds with, but that's my mom. And it was just an interaction that just apparently hit me much deeper than I thought it did. Outside of that aspect, Gwen brought in two other point of views, two new point of view characters, because we got the original 3 from the first book, and then we got 2 new ones. And I really love, at first I was like, I don't want their point of views, but then I realized the need and necessity for their point of views, and then I ended up enjoying one of them much more than the other. Because one, you just kind of like Guthvar, I hope I'm saying that right. He's one of those characters where you're like, oh, you think you're big and bad, but internally, you're not. And I found a lot of his chapters very humorous, but not in like a jokey humor kind of way. It was just the way his personality worked and the way he himself as a character, his character traits were portrayed, because he was just that character that you could just laugh at because he really thought he was all that in a bag of chips when he wasn't. And then the other one is Bjor, and with his point of views, we got to see things from the antagonist side of the story, which was very helpful because without that point of view, we wouldn't have really known what was going on. So it was necessary. It was very necessary. Overall, Orca is still one of my favorite characters. Still love her. I still absolutely love Varg, and I really love Varg's chapters and his found family. Everything that he goes through, it either makes me happy or it makes me cry. That's just how Varg's portion of the story goes. I still struggle with, what is her name? Elvar. I still kind of struggle with her. So we'll see if in the 3rd book she can finally win my heart over. But yeah, this is definitely a series I definitely recommend. A great Norse-inspired fantasy-style book, because the world building is also absolutely amazing, and we get to see more of it in this world. The characters are great. The action scenes, amazing. Just overall, fantastic sequel, and I cannot wait to get a hold of the 3rd book. And now coming in at number 1, this one, I read this in November, so just very recently, but I was very pleasantly surprised as to how much I genuinely loved this book, because looking back on it, I have nothing negative to say about this book. I genuinely enjoyed every single inch of it, and that would be The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. This book sent me on a roller coaster of emotions. It had me crying over characters that I didn't realize meant the entire world to me. Swan, if you're watching this, I know you know who I'm talking about. Please don't take him away from me. Okay? The way Helena recounts the events, because the story is told from Helena's perspective. She is the one telling us everything that's going on, what her time with Von Vault was like. I really loved the way she explained things. I loved the few moments where she would kind of pop back in and be like, and remind us that she was telling us this recounting of what was going on. there was also certain events where they would happen in the book and she would go ahead and pop back in and be like, this was the outcome of such event. So I didn't have to wait. One of those moments were very tragic for me, and I cried. I did a lot of crying towards the later half of this book because, like I said, the emotional roller coaster. And if you know me, that's honestly what I want when I read a book. I know there's a lot of people who are like, oh, I want to read a book that'll make me happy, or I want to read a book that will, most people I know, they want a book that'll make them happy. I want my book to rip my heart into shreds and leave me a ball of crying mess on the floor, because I feel, personally for me, I feel that authors invoking the emotion of heartbreak and sadness is one of the more difficult tasks to accomplish, because I've read plenty of books where, you know, like characters die or I'm supposed to feel sad for someone, and I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, sorry, sucks for you. And I'm a very emotional person. I can break down and cry at the drop of a hat. I watch Disney movies and I still cry. Like, for reference, the Beauty and the Beast Disney movie, the animated one, to this day, when I watch it, I will still cry when I think the Beast is dying. I know he doesn't, but I do, because of how it's all laid out and how it plays out. It hurts my heart. So that I'm very sensitive. I cry very easily. So if an author writes a scene that I'm supposed to cry in and I don't, then I'm just like, oh, like, whatever, you know, like I want to feel devastated. I want to feel like my heart has been ripped from my chest, and Swan accomplished that. He also told me that book 2 is going to annihilate me, so I'm looking forward to that. Character-wise, loved all of these. Apparently, I loved every single one of them. Didn't realize I loved certain ones until certain events. But I do have to say, this is one of the few books where every character, minus obviously the bad guys, I absolutely love. I love Helena. I love Von Valt, Bressinger. Just, I love them all. I love the relationships that are portrayed between Bressinger, Von Valt, and Helena, because you get like this, we're your dads, we're your boss, me and you are co-workers, oh, but I'm like your friend. You get so many different relationships between the three of them, and they all stand out from each other because you can see them all from all of these different angles, and it's so amazing how Swan was able to portray so many different types of relationships between these three characters. And I absolutely loved it, because a lot of times you only see like one type of relationship between characters. Von Valt and Helena, for instance, you get the boss to apprentice, you know, you get the master to apprentice, you get the father to adopted daughter, you get the we're friends and co-workers kind of vibe, you know, which is still like I'm your boss, you're my employee, you know, just there's so many different relationships that are portrayed between three characters and how they all interact with each other, and it's amazing, it's fantastic, and I loved it. The magic that's in this world, Swan makes you yearn for it. He doesn't just throw it out there, just lashing it out. Here's some for you, here's some for you, here's it now, we're gonna use it now, we're gonna use it now. No, he makes you crave it. The first time Von Valt used the Emperor's voice, I was like, more? And Swan was like, no. And I was like, more? No. More? No. Now? No. 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 He makes you crave it. And it makes it more appealing because you're not constantly being shoved in the face with this magic. And that goes for the other type of magic that Von Valt has. And you're just kind of like, can I have more of that too? And Swan's like, no, you can't. And then he's like, oh yeah, by the way, all the other justices, they have different kinds of magic, but I'm only going to tell you about like one or two, and the rest I'm just not going to tell you. And you're like, but can you tell me? And he's like, no, I'm not gonna. No, you have to wait and see. And you're like, okay, guess I'm gonna wait and see. And I really love that approach to the magic, because it makes me yearn for it. It makes me want more, and it makes me want to stick around and learn and see what else could possibly be in this world that these other justices could possibly have. So I'm definitely looking forward to number 2. I'm going to show you guys right now. This is the Goldsboro edition. So yes, your girl has the follow-up already pre-ordered through Goldsboro. Okay, like I was going to miss out on that. Okay. I actually almost thought I did, but I didn't. So this one definitely takes the cake. Just like I said, I have absolutely nothing negative to say about this. The way it ends, when the spiral that you start to see Von Volt go on, I am so looking forward to that. I am also going to keep my fingers crossed that our villain, we're going to see him spiral too, because I love seeing a religious fanatic just spiral out of control, and I don't think it's done enough. And I want to see the descent into madness, and while for one character, I'm going to see a descent into anger, I want to see another character go into a descent of absolute unbridled madness. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that I'm going to get that. But I am also knowing that if this first book emotionally wrecked me the way it did, I can probably guarantee the next one will do exactly as Swan said it will. So definitely pick this one up. This is freaking amazing. That right there is my top 5 books of 2022. If you have read any of these, drop a comment in the bottom. If you have not and you're interested, drop a comment. Let me know if any of these sound good to you. So if you guys enjoyed this video and you want to see more, like, subscribe, do all of those great things. Also, I hope the sound was a little bit better this go around, because I did get a microphone for Christmas. So I hope it makes like a big difference. So we'll see. With that said though, I will see you guys next time. Bye.